Okay, I have to use the microphone because of translation, which is mildly irritating. I'm not used to microphones. I hope that we have a lot of exchange today. That's why I'm asking you to help me to think about passing the microphone so that we have optimum translation, okay? Probably forget. All right, so let's start again. My name is Theresa Thiel. I'm 36 years old, and I'm from Germany. And I'm running a kindergarten in Germany. That's what I do since January. But I am actually a trauma pedagogue. And the question I just asked was, do you know what trauma pedagogy is? Have you heard of trauma pedagogy? No. Right, because we don't have that much time for big definitions, I try to break it down for you as simple and fast as possible. Trauma pedagogy is the right middle between pedagogy and education and trauma therapy. Trauma therapy consists of 4 different phases. The first phase is psychoeducation. The second, stabilization. The third one, trauma exposure. And the fourth one, trauma integration. In trauma pedagogy, or in the field of trauma pedagogy, we focus on the first 2 phases of psychotraumatology, and that is psychoeducating children or adults, everyone, and stabilizing them. These are the 2 things we're completely focused on in trauma pedagogy. And how we do that, I like to introduce you to right now. I have like little flyers where I put it in writing, and here, feel free to grab that, and I explain it, or try to explain as good as possible. So, in trauma pedagogy, we have 5 principles we lean on. The first principle we work with, or we lean on, is, can you see that? I did not expect that much people, to be honest, so I'm very sorry. I do my best. The first principle we lean on is the good reason. When we approach, I talk of children, okay? I work with children, so I mean, of course, everybody, when I say children, right? When we approach a child and the challenging behavior that is the outcome of the traumatic event, what happened to them, we assume that this behavior is there for a good reason. So this kid probably has outbursts, or is aggressive, or is forgetful, or cannot concentrate. All the things that are quite frustrating for you as teachers in the classroom that you approach over and over again, we simply assume you have a good reason for that. You went through a lot, and this is the way you cope with what you have. So instead of getting frustrated and caught in an action, we assume, all right, you have a good reason for that. The second principle of trauma pedagogy is appreciation. Appreciation, what we mean with that is that the challenging behavior, or the symptoms that look like challenging behavior in your classroom, are often affect your work as teachers. It's effective for, or more probably damaging for the kids, and it affects your whole classroom, everyone around. And sometimes with that whole negativity of, are you right? Yeah. All right, okay. That creates a negative atmosphere. But in trauma pedagogy, we remind ourselves that this behavior is a way to live with something that you cannot actually live with. And we appreciate that behavior as a survival mechanism. Hey, you came up with a strategy to survive that. Great job. But does that serve you right now? That's the next step. But first of all, we assume that you have a good reason for that, and we appreciate what you come up with to survive. The third principle of trauma pedagogy is transparency. Trauma is something very intrusive. It interrupts everything you did. It's like the biggest surprise ever. And with transparency, we try to make a situation, a day, the way you behave, as predictable and transparent as possible. That means that we try to structure a day. That means that we explain when something happens and why something happens. And not just the outside world, in there is psychoeducation as well. Because with transparency, we mean that we can explain to the child what's happening inside them. Because trauma is not what happens to the child. It's not that traumatic event. Trauma is what happens inside of you, inside your body, inside your mind, as a response to happens what's outside of you. Children that are traumatized, or human beings that are traumatized, they come up with a lot of symptoms that seem not normal. You and I, we know that this is a perfectly normal response to a very unusual behavior, but the child doesn't know that. The child knows he has outbursts, he cannot sit still, and there are probably consequences or the moral speeches over and over again, but he doesn't know why. And that was actually the moment I decided to become an educator in trauma. There was a boy, he was 5 years old, and he had so much problems to fit in because he was full of symptoms and acting these symptoms out, that one day he approached me and he looked me deep into my eyes and he asked me, "Theresa, why am I so stupid?" That was heartbreaking, but that was the moment I decided that I try, and it's not enough, and I don't know what to do anymore. So transparency does not mean it means it's kind of our job to make a structure and everything as visible and possible to prepare the child and to make transitions easy. It also means to educate and tell the child, hey, what's going on inside you? Remember the last time when you played soccer, you were in a fight and there was an outburst? What do we do the next time? All right? The fourth principle of trauma pedagogy is participation, and that's a good one because trauma means 100% loss of control. There is a kid or a human being that lost 100% self-efficiency. More stress is impossible. Participation, so self-efficiency, is the antidote to trauma. So we use participation as a tool, or much more an attitude, to work with traumatized children, to make it possible to make them hear what they have to say and give them choices in every possible situation. And the last one is fun and enjoyment. That's an easy one. It's a fun one because it means fun and enjoyment. But that is, as every other principle in trauma pedagogy, one of my favorite, not just because it's fun, but because in fun and enjoyment lies a huge chance. Fun and enjoyment is there as, to give experience that are positive, as many as possible. So traumatized children, you are aware of attachment style theory. You are aware that there are different ways to attach ourselves. There's safe attachment, right? There's anxious ambivalent attachment, avoidant attachment, and then we go into the pathologic part of attachment theory with disorganized attachment and attachment disorder, right? Traumatized children lost the ability to attach themselves safely, especially children that experienced trauma, a man-made trauma. These children are not able to attach themselves safely. They're most likely attached disorganized. That's the kid that comes in the morning, one morning, and goes, "Hey, great to see you. I love you. I missed you so much. Can I go home with you today?" And the next morning he comes in and before you said good morning, he is already sick of you. That's the kid. I see. You're familiar with that? Yeah, right. So a child with PTBS lost the ability to attach themselves in a healthy way. And in fun and enjoyment lies a huge possibility to correct attachment behavior. Mainly when you play soccer or you play a game of whatever and you have a good and fun and relaxed time, if possible, there opens a little window. And this window is the perfect chance for you to attach and just, if it's a second or two, in a safe way. That window closes, another window will open. But mainly you have a good chance to attach a child that way while you play soccer. All right. Questions so far, trauma pedagogy. Right. We give participation means basically we give the child to participate in every situation that concerns them. Yeah, to give them a say, a voice, a choice, a possibility for give a sense of direction, just be part of that situation and the process. Well, participation, well, to pick up your example, it could mean you probably talk about a child that is like, yeah, right, in the room, and you cannot keep that child in the, yeah, right. A way, and it's just one way, because that's why I love participation, because you can use it in so many different ways, and you basically have to find the way that fits for that child in front of you. Because what is trauma is as individual as we all are. What is traumatizing for me does not mean it's traumatizing for you too, and what works for me doesn't mean that it works for you too. So you have a variety of options, and you have to find the right one. An example of participation probably would be, hey, when you stay here, this and this is going to happen. We cannot do that. Obviously, you need a little help. So what do you want to do now? You want to go outside and play soccer, or you want to go and rest? Or you want to go outside with a friend and play soccer, or you want to play memory or something? Right. Give them choices. That's what it means. Right? If you can reach him, if he's able to listen, if he is able to make a decision right now, why not? But you can work yourself with the kid to that point. Yeah? All right. Are you interested at looking at symptoms and how these symptoms can look in the classroom? You want to hear that? Yeah? All right. So when a traumatic incident happened, like what? What can be a traumatic incident? Yeah, you know what you're talking about, right? What else? Right, loss. Death of a parent, right. So when something like that happens to a child, it is absolutely normal that we come up with symptoms. It's our way to respond to an unbearable situation. The key is to look at how long does these symptoms last. So these are a variety of symptoms that you can see, and it basically doesn't matter what kind of symptom that child or that human being develops, the time the symptom stays present matters. So everything that, oh, can you see? Yeah. So everything that lasts longer than 6 weeks, we assume that these symptoms chronify, and then we can talk about trauma-related disorder, such as PTBS. These are PTBS symptoms, and there are 4 categories, like intrusion, dissociation, constriction or avoidance, and hyperarousal. So, oh, thank you. So, I got it. I have it? You have it? Yeah, I'm holding it. Does it work? Thank you very much. You got it? Yeah. So there are four categories, and the first category of trauma symptoms is intrusions. And typical for this category is brooding. Do you know what brooding is? Yeah? Right? It's a brooding is something when you have a thought in your mind and you go over and over and over it again. Do you know that state of mind? Do you know how hard it is to get out of there? Yeah. You maybe want to consider that when you see a child that you cannot approach. You talk to that child and he just can't follow. He just goes, he's not present. Yeah? Scraps of memory, what does that mean? Right, and there are two intensities. There is the scraps of memories that comes back, and then there's flashback. Yeah? What is flashback? Yeah, right. What is what is so special about flashbacks? Why they're highly destabilizing? Right. And not just the feelings, they're reliving everything. Someone in the middle of a flashback is able to smell, taste, hear, and feel completely raw what happened 10 years ago. That's a loss of 100% of control. That is highly destabilizing. Yeah? Nightmares, quite typical. And children sometimes don't say they have nightmares. I had a kid once that say, "Oh, I had ghosts at night coming." Sometimes you have to decode nightmares. Yeah, but when a kid can't sleep and is really, really tired, how does that look like in school? Yeah, right, right. Do you know what I hear from teachers once in a while? Oh, he's so lazy. He's just not interested. Yeah, all right. Post-traumatic play. What is that? Yeah, you're good. You want to continue? Yeah, right. A post-traumatic play is a typical symptom for children. I've never heard someone mention that in the contents of PTBS with adults, but with children, this occurs quite often. And you will recognize a post-traumatic play when you see it, because usually at this point, people ask me, how does that look? And my answer is always the same: trust your gut feeling. Because you all work with children, you dedicate your job to work with children, to be with children, you know how kids play, right? That is the exact opposite. That is a tense, hectic play. You can actually see that the breath of that kid's breath is faster and more intense. The pupil are widens, a little blushed, and like forced, this kid plays the traumatic situation in the tiniest details over and over again. And that play is rigid. It never changes. It's always the same. You will recognize post-traumatic play. That is destabilizing, highly destabilizing. And everywhere where is, I don't know, when you have a kid that is in the phase where they're like prefer role plays, or everywhere where are dolls or a doll house, it might occur. So the most important thing here is, how do you deal with that as teachers? When you no.
Because going back to what you were saying about transparency and participation,
Mm-hmm.
is to engage in the conversation with him
Mm-hmm.
and try to get him to relate what is happening in his mind
Right.
when he was playing.
Yeah. You think you can do that in that very moment?
Uh, okay, so the way I did it working with children
Yeah.
who went through an earthquake is I create a different sort of scenario, but also a scenario that involves a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the children sort of
Right.
but not using the same scenario of earthquake.
Yeah,
Using
that's smart.
a different one.
Right. So when you see that symptom and you see a child that behaves erratically like that, you interrupt that immediately. The reason for that is not just that this symptom is highly destabilizing for a child. When this child wakes up, it will be probably very tired and cranky and whiny because it's exhausting. You interrupt that immediately because it's, like I said, destabilizing. But why do you interrupt that in classroom or in kindergarten? Why else? Right, right. Why else? We are at the conference about resilience, you guys. Where are you in this picture? All right. There are two ways to have trauma. There's a primary trauma and there's a secondary trauma. A primary trauma means something terrible happens to me. A secondary trauma means I am traumatized because I witnessed something terrible happen to you. That's a primary trauma. So every time you work with traumatized children, you are exposed to trauma as well. And when you have a child that creates these highly difficult and, it gives you a feeling of, I cannot breathe. It is heavy. I don't know how to deal with that. You are exposed to all these details. You know what went on, what is going on. And what do you do with that? Now you know everything. Now you saw everything. And now you do what? You take that home. And what do you do with that? So you interrupt that to protect yourself as well, because you don't want to be that exposed to all these gruesome details. You protect that because you have probably 19 other children that for once maybe experience trauma as well. And then it's like, like a spiral. And you basically protect yourself, the child, and every kid in your class to be exposed to that gruesome details. Yeah? Questions so far? All right, we have dissociation. Do you know what that is? Right. Dissociation means change in perception and consciousness, depersonalization, derealization, amnesia, inner emptiness, and psychosomatic illness. What that means is psychosomatic illness, for example. That kid comes and says, my tummy hurts. Yeah, and then you do whatever you can to make the tummy ache go away. And the kid goes and comes back and says, my ear hurts. Yeah, could be psychosomatic. I've worked with a friend together who worked with children with refugees, and she told me that the kids that left, their countries and fled and had long ways, long journeys, they talk a lot about knee injuries they don't have. Their knee hurt, their hip hurt, their feet hurt, and they ran to doctors and they cannot find anything. But the knees and the feet still hurt. Yeah, could be that. Inner emptiness, that is the child that is hard to motivate. No matter what you do, no matter what you present, no matter what you give, no chance. Inner emptiness. All right, but inner emptiness has a function, an important one. What is the function of inner emptiness? Right. You shut down your feelings because what you feel is so terrible you could not make it through the day. Right? But from the outside perspective, it looks like a lazy kid. It looks like the lazy kid. It looks like the kid that is hard to motivate. And how do you react usually when you have a child that is so hard to motivate? Yeah, usually the answer I get is with a lot of frustration because I don't know what to do anymore. I need to teach him something. So what is it that you can do when you have a child that is hard to motivate because it feels empty? You see that in the middle. For example, where is it? You can give them an outside stimulation. You give them something to feel, In fact, I have one right now. Do you know these rings? Yeah? These are just little tools, little helpers. All right, amnesia. Love this one. Because when I know a situation in a school or in kindergarten, then it's usually a teacher saying things like, how many times did we talk about that? It's a classic, right? So maybe this kid is in a situation and you talk over rules or whatever you talk about, this situation makes this kid tense, and this is the way he reacts. So the next time you feel frustrated because the kid obviously understood the rules, because they just cannot stick to them, right? And that usually, I don't know how you are, but that frustrates me even more, because if you know they understand the rules, but they cannot follow them, then where's the problem? Why not, right? Maybe it's because the situation was so tense for him that he just, right? Depersonalization, you probably, I mean, we all know this one kid at the playground, and he runs around or she runs around like crazy, and he plays roughly, and she climbs up somewhere, and then he or she falls. And you know from a distance, that hurt. Do you know that kid that stands up, not even blinking, and keeps running? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Constriction and avoidance. Dissociative states, we had regression, isolating, numbing, under excitation, lack of pleasure and joy, restriction of vitality and behavior. We had this a little bit here. Regression is something that I find very interesting. What is regression?
A 14-year-old behaving like a 4-year-old.
Right, exactly. That's usually the kid when you have a full classroom that is right here and wants to sit on your lap, most likely when it's really, really stressful. Do you have one of these kids? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's the kid that has a perfect language development, and all of a sudden you have a 5-year-old that speaks like a 3-year-old, or that needs a diaper again. That is regression, right? What's the function of regression? Huh? And you need more protection. Exactly. That's the function of regression. I'm asking you that because we have 5 principles here in the middle, right? The good reason and appreciation. You came up with this survival mechanism because it helps you to survive, and I approach you like this. I know it's hard when you have 20 kids in your class and there's a lot of things going on, and you yourself have an agenda, and then it's raining, you can't go outside, then you have to do another thing, you have to come up with an alternative, and then you have this kid that wants to sit on your lap. Yeah, I know, I relate to that. Regression, this kid needs protection. It's a survival mechanism. Hyperarousal. A question so far? All right. Hyperarousal means jumpiness, tension, outburst, aggressive behavior, sleep disturbance, lack of concentration. And this I find interesting because we usually have an image of a child that escalates, right? We usually have the image of outburst. I was a kindergarten teacher, and I once marched into my group, 20 little lions, and I said, hey, you guys, guess what? We're going to have ice cream right now. And 19 kids went, yeah! And they ran out, and they, put on their shoes and their jacket. And this one kid, yeah! And he jumped on the table, and he threw the chairs, and he was overly excited. That's what that can also look like. It's not just the anger, and it can also be a hyper excitement, jumpiness. They cannot sit still. Someone in kindergarten here, or probably in primary school, you do that as well. We call this Morgenkreis. It's you come together in the morning and you build a circus. Well, sometimes it feels like it, to be honest. You build a circle. And you sing songs, and and there's this one kid that cannot sit still. And it drives everyone crazy, right? And it drives you crazy because you cannot focus, right? I brought you a few tools that I use that I'd like to give these kids in their hands so they have something they can do. They're probably still jumpy, but it minimizes the risk of escalation. Yeah. Lack of concentration, that's a vicious circle usually, because a teacher, I as a kindergarten teacher, I usually get frustrated when I explain something over and over again, and he just cannot remember, he just doesn't get it. Lack of concentration, he's probably somewhere else. He is like 5 years ago when this terrible thing happened, or he is, oh my God, when I come home, he's probably somewhere else and he just cannot concentrate, right? Questions so far? All right.
Sorry, a question. Let's say, as a teacher, and you're trying to administer some kind of intervention, do you at the same time work alongside a counselor who's able to give the professional counseling?
No.
You don't. So you're just working alone.
What your training did, so right. If it was a normal a teacher without the training, then right. And I know this sounds like interesting, and I brought a few tools I'd like to introduce you to, but I am totally aware of the fact that what I bring you, you cannot do like 100%, 24/7, like 24 hours a day, 7 days in a week, because you don't have the time, you don't have the capacity. I'm just trying to give you a little insight and a little tool, because for me, what I established as resilience in working with traumatized children are these 5 principles of trauma pedagogy. That means transparency, appreciation, participation, the good reason, and fun and enjoyment. If I'm able to take these principles and to create an attitude, like an inner stance, something that I see the way I see it, that for me is the biggest factor of resilience. Because when I know that, and I know that, it prevents me from taking that personally. I say something 3 times in a row, the same thing, I use the same words, and I'm nice, and the first time I take it personally. But when I know that, and when I know that, or when I know, he probably slept there, he didn't sleep well. When I know all these things and I can approach them with, well, he has good reasons, and I can see why not, then for me, automatically it's less personal, it creates a different distance, and it creates an appreciation in being together and working together, and acceptance. And it gives you as teachers, the opportunity to participate, to give self-efficiency. Because when you know that, and you know the history of the child or the resources that your child come from, you can create specific tools that you can work with the kid. I brought you 2 types of tools that I work with. We have 15 minutes, so I'm not quite sure how to approach that now, but give me a try, okay? I brought 2 methods. The first one is the teach method. Have you heard of that? The teach method. The teach method was actually invented to work with autistic children. But I use it to work with traumatized children. It's a way of communication. And how does that look? Can you do me a favor and hold the mic? Okay. All right. So I created these. Thanks. I created these little books that are there to give maximum transparency and structure for the kid individually. Of course, you can have a folder like that in your class, but you can make one just for the kid. And it looks like this. Oh, I made two. This is the folder for the symbols for schools and kindergarten. And here are 7 sheets: Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and so on. And you can see these little symbols here. And for example, oh, that's relaxation, that's good. On Monday, we start with music. And then there's some reading to do. And then, if you like, you can relax. And then there's art or whatever. And this way, you can create a structure for a kid individually, or you can have one in your class that shows the kid and prepares the kid for what is happening. Because most of the time, traumatized children have problems with transition. So everywhere where is the change, they will most likely will react. Right, and the reason for that is that something unpredictable happened. And that reaction, right, is like toxic because it can basically make every one of these symptoms appear. So instead of this, I come into my class and I say, hey, you wanna go ice cream? We can do that now. So instead of jumping over tables and throwing stuff, right, it was too sudden. It came as a surprise. But he easily could have said, no, I'm not going, no way. Or you like this. He could react it in every way. So to prevent that and to make transitions predictable, you can use these type of folders.
I think I understand we have a certain class and there's a certain child in that class.
Yeah.
And the teacher does this. And now I think I understand why.
Yeah.
It's used for children with autism as well.
Right. It was originally created to communicate with autistic children, but to create maximum transparency for the kid and for a traumatized child, that's really useful. And you don't have to use every sheet, You can use just one and create just the next hour. You can do that too, So here are a lot of different symbols, way, way too many. What happens when you have too many choice?
He freaked out.
Right, so limit that. Yeah? Questions so far?
Yes, I understand this system definitely, and I work with children in I don't know, for foster care, foster care children. And I just want to say that I understand this structure. That's perfectly fine, but the life brings sudden, unexpected changes, and how to help to visualize uh, this situation, like something between this and that, what we planned happened, there is a change. So how do you work with these situations? You can't have pictures for everything, but is there any ding 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 whatever, like preparing, there is a change, we didn't plan the change, but there is the change.
You can do that by being transparent. Something is going to happen, but I don't know what. What do we do now? What do you need? Do you need a tool? Do you need a break? Do you need sleep, something to eat, something to drink before that? You figure out a way. The key is to be transparent. Okay, we do this, we do that, and then we don't know what to do. It's not planned yet. I know you can handle that very well. It happens that you have outbursts then, or you don't want to go. What is it that I can do to help you through it? The approach is not to avoid everything, because this is going to happen. I hear a lot of teachers that talking to me and they say, oh, I try so hard to avoid that, and there goes all my energy. Yeah, right. There goes all your energy. But this will happen. The outburst will come. and he will not better focus just because because you try to solve the problem for him. Sometimes transparency and honesty is just the right thing to do. You don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers either, but I can approach a child like that. I can say, I don't know. What do we do now? Right? What is it that you need that helps you through the uncertainty? Do you need me? Do you need a friend? Do you need a break before that? What is it?
Okay. Do you have another question?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. I like these toys. I'm using them in the classes. But the thing is that some of the children, even though they like having something in the hand for a while, then in the middle of the circle, they start to use it as a thing to throw or to throw up and down, and it's disturbing the program. So, how do you do you introduce any rules when you are giving these helpers? How this traumatized child that is just in the middle of concentrating, getting more intense, that thing is inviting him to do something more with it.
Thank you. So, my favorite rule is if you need to throw something, throw your own stuff. And do it outside. So, if you feel like throwing stuff, hey, come on, let's exchange, give that to me, take your own stuff, go outside and throw your own stuff. And when you're ready throwing your own stuff, you can come back. That's my favorite rule so far. Works, because what is in there? Participation. There's a choice. And there's a clear rule. Not my stuff. Yeah? Right. 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 Or you can sit down with a kid and create a way that he can use a sensory skill without someone knowing. You can make a competition, works as well. I have skill sensory. I feel it. It works. And would you know? Right. So right there.
Sorry, in the international school that did some teaching in Singapore, the kid who has a certain condition, he gets to ask for permission to leave the classroom for 10 minutes. And it helps him because he's feeling tense in the classroom. He needs to get out. So, so I know about it because a teacher who I did substitute with, told me about the kid. So I let him go outside, sit in the sun for 10 minutes. Then he feels that he calms down, he can come back in again.
Right. You literally can create an alternative to what is going on right now. Because sometimes these tools and skills are fine, but they're just they work here on this level, and sometimes they need an alternative. Sometimes this is not enough to handle the symptom. It's maybe good when you write an exam and you have something that makes you feel and something that helps you to not get overwhelmed by your feeling. That might be one of 2 or 3 strategies at the same time that could help the child to pass through that situation. Yeah. Questions so far?
You let them out of the classroom, but they abuse it, or you don't have a pedagogy assistant to somebody else to be there with them. So, any ideas on that?
Can you give me an example? Leave and don't return.
Yeah, like. Yeah, they might be aggressive in the classroom, or you can't stop them from speaking and commenting on others and hitting on others with words. So, what if I let them out of the classroom let's say in the hall. But yeah, I might be scared like they might do something else. They don't really use this time to calm down, but they use it as a, yeah, I would be afraid. Escape, yeah, escape. And then next time they try it because they see it's a way of escape what's going on in the class. Yeah. Yeah, usually they can't calm down.
There is actually a ground rule. So I told the boy, you can go out, but you must be somewhere where I can see you. So he can only be within 10 meters of the classroom because I have to be able to see him.
I, I think the boy is looking for a lot of attention. It's like when I repeat his name every 2 minutes and I keep eye contact, but he feels the urgent need to still be in the conversation. So at least, either he talks to the classmates during the classroom, the lesson, or transfers to me, but still it's not the result I need. No, no, that was just my idea. Like, what if I, take him out of the classroom or. Mhm, 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 mhm.
And in that situation, or it's a hypothetical situation, it was a imaginary situation, or did that really happen? Yeah. And what age is he? 13. Oh, wow. Yeah. 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 And is that a possibility? It's just, you don't have to answer right now. It's just that I really feel, I know that your day is stressful. I've been there. And so I relate and connect to your troubles. I just, really feel that what I want to do is to soften and widen teachers and educators' angles for the possibility of trauma and why symptoms are there and why are they good. What's the use of their symptoms? And sometimes that alone softens the way I approach the kid. If you like to talk about that or like to come up with a strategy, you can approach me later. I would love to take that time with you because this seems a little bit more complicated. Let me think about that. Feel free to approach me afterwards, okay? All right. 2 more minutes. Wow. Are you bored? We can stop if you like. All right. All right. All right. Okay, you okay? Yeah. All right. I brought you a second method that I work with and that I like to introduce to parents and early intervention teachers. And it might be something for you, Clint, because you have a really amazing job over there in Kentucky and you're focusing on transition, right? Life transitions. That may be something for you or something that your social workers might to work with if they wenn sie es nicht schon längst tun, if they know this method. So this method is called a This Is Me book. Do you know these books? Or I book. So with the help of this book, thank you, great team here. With the help of this book, this kid or the kid has a tool to communicate and navigate through its network. So in this book, you basically can collect every information that considers the child. So you have, that's a secret page. Those are serious. This is me. And you can you can, this side gives just basic information about the kid. This is me, this is my birthday. Here's where I live. Now it gets interesting, because this side gives you information about the child's background. Maybe mom and dad, this is my house, or this is my foster mom, this is my grandmother. So whatever that kid likes to share or considers as family, it shows right here. All right? My family, my friends. This is the kid's biography. So maybe, I don't know, you get information here too about probably, so this is where I lived, and then a foreigner came, and this is where I live now. Or I went to this school, and then we moved, and now we went to this school. Or this is my mom, and then she died, and now this is my dad and me. This biography, it concludes information that kid likes to share with you. And this kid can take this folder and navigate itself through the whole network without actually talking about what was going on. Yeah? And you can use that for school as well. Or these are my resources, for example. I am strong. I am creative. I am good at math. And I am a good helper. So now let's say little Max comes into your class and shows you and like to show you this book. What information can you use already to approach this child or to work with this child without even talking to him or her? You already know, okay, the family situation is difficult. And you already know, all right, he loves to be creative. So he doesn't need to talk to you about all these things. You just know, and he gives you this folder. He himself decided to share this with you. And you can say, you know what? I know you like math, and I know you're creative. What do you think? After reading, you can be creative, and then you do a little math or whatever. All right, so you have information that you can use to approach this child, to educate this child, and to make his day more predictable or to meet his needs. So, thank you so much. You're doing a great job. I'm moving around. This side, for example, is a great source of information because it says, I am something special. And that can mean everything. It can mean, sometimes I have outbursts. Or I don't like it loud. Or whatever information it is sometimes, or I don't like transitions, or I am strong, or I need a lot of breaks, or whatever it is that makes the kid special the way it is, right? We have communication. When you communicate with me, please talk silently, don't yell. Please keep a distance. Please talk slowly. Please let me calm down first and then talk to me. Or I need to talk first before you can talk to me. You know, rules of communication this kid has. Not necessarily your rules, but definitely his, right?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I work with children with autism, I have phases of different emotions,
Right,
sad, happy, excited, and
right.
I ask him, how are you feeling today? And he chooses one of the phases.
Yeah.
So can we use that as well so that the teacher know how he's feeling at that moment?
Of course, it's a great way to communicate with a kid because I know how you feel, but when I'm really, really angry, I'm not in the mood to talk. I need to be angry for a while. I would love to come home and put a sticker with an emoji on my door so everyone in this house already knows how I'm feeling. Don't approach. That's awesome, right? Right. So I have, I can give that to you if you like. It provides a lot of information, like this is what I like, also important, this is what I don't like. You know, it, traumatized kids are super interesting because one of the function of these books is to identify triggers. If you're able to identify the trigger, you can react, you can be transparent, psychoeducate, and stabilize the child in a proper way when you're able to identify the trigger. I once had a kid that refused to have lunch. I didn't know why. He just refused. And the answer to that was he didn't like the soup. The consistency of the soup reminded him of something. And he refused to have lunch. Took me weeks till I found that out. But when you have that here, I don't like soup, you already know when we approach lunch, transition could be difficult for him, right? So here's a lot of different information in store. When he needs help or she needs help, a lot of different things. I can give that to you. I have different versions of this. Some are in English, some are in. Some are in.
Actually, you can find them in internet.
You can.
But yeah, when I work with children with autism, I don't make these pictures. I actually printed them off the internet. You just do a search. Yeah. Some very good teachers put it online for other teachers to use.
Yeah, but you have to make it fit for the kid that it's in front of you, and to find a way to communicate that you all can agree on and that you all are aware of. Because maybe you noticed in the other things, the size of the pictures are different sizes. You can use that. A small picture, I'm a little afraid of dogs. I might be a little freaky, but I think I can handle it myself. Or a bigger picture, I am really, really afraid of dogs. Or I really, really love dogs. I need a break. Or I need distraction. Or whatever it is. So the size of pictures you can communicate if the child agrees on. Right? So you have to, that's right, that's in the internet, but you have to customize it for the kid right in front of you. Yeah? Can you see yourself using these methods, or do you find these methods helpful or not so helpful? What is your response to these methods?
The things that I've done also is I made a poster on the wall, especially classroom routine. So I say, okay, it's reading time now. So I take the sticker with the reading, I stick it up on the wall. so that they can see it is bigger and clearer.
Yeah, that's the visible structure, the transparency in the classroom, right? Right. Questions so far?
Actually, I really like these tools. I see that it might be very hard to apply it to uh, more than one child, you know, to have more cases like this in the class without assistant, or having the kids only for permanent period, not working with them for a year or something. But also I'm wondering because I understand the trauma, but sometimes the kids that are traumatized just by the life it is, because they don't have the resistance, and they are so weak in dealing with the emotions in nowadays, they might not be traumatized like we are talking about the cases, but they are using some of the strategies just like clever way, just like this lady said that, you know, he realizes that it's a way of escape, right? So that's a resource, but you have more smart kids in the group like this using these resources. So I understand there is one traumatized, but the other ones are sort of coping. So how to deal with this? With the clever ones that are not really traumatized.
Yeah, that's a huge. Yeah, sometimes I have days where I think that this is the question, and my. I mean, actually, the workshop is done. We're way over the time. I'm so sorry, but I feel that kind of frustration, right? What I can say, what I've learned over the years for myself, is what goes for the kids. These 5 principles of trauma pedagogy, and speaking of resilience, needs to go for me too. This is how I stay resilient. When it comes to the 5 principles of trauma pedagogy, I use those to work with children, but I use these 5 principles as kind of a checklist for me too. So, fun and enjoyment. Do I have fun and do I enjoy my work? Yes or no? Participation. Do I have a say in the house and our concept, or how we approach things as a team? Do I have a say in how do I create my day? And I myself try to appreciate as much as possible frustration, and try to tell myself I have very good reasons to be frustrated. I am frustrated because, and that is a good reason. So the answer, I don't have the answer to that. I feel it's more a political problem than a classroom problem, because it's a systematic problem as well. That's what I feel in Germany. So my answer to you would be, do whatever is good for you to improve your resilience, and try to. My strategy is that I use these 5 principles of trauma pedagogy as a checklist for myself. Do I still have fun and enjoyment at my workplace? No. Am I allowed to have a say in processes and how I develop my day, how I create my day, how we, I don't know, write our concept, how we introduce ourselves in the district? Do I have a say in that? Or transparency. Is what I'm going through right now transparent for me? Yeah, I'm frustrated because. Or is my boss transparent with me? Is he involving me in the things? Is he honest? No. I've been at that point, and my solution was, when I made this checklist, I decided to leave. I decided to leave and to take over a new position where I can give my all in. And I've left the teaching class and I've went into early intervention therapy, where I could use trauma pedagogy specifically one-on-one. And then I made this checklist again. Do I have fun? Yeah. Do I feel like appreciated, or can I appreciate my own feelings? I can justify that? Yeah. So I was at a point where I was not able to cope with that situation anymore. I made the checklist. It says, so I left. And the question is that, I don't know if you've heard the keynote of Birgit Bergman. It's of responsibilities. You know, the drama triangle. Do I stay in this situation because I have the feeling that I need to rescue these kids? Is that the reason? Why am I staying here? So this is what I can, like, I don't have the solution to that either. I hear that over and over again, and I always have the same answer. Do whatever improves your resilience. And if you're at a place where you cannot do that anymore, maybe it's time to question, how is that place still a good place for me? That's was that helpful? It doesn't answer your question, I'm very sorry, but this is how I approached it. Was that helpful?
Yes, I'm not at the point to leave.
Yeah.
But
It's just what I did.
But using this opportunity to train my resilience.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right. So, and there are strategies for that, actually. We can sit down and look at this and come up with strategies and methods. There are methods. It is possible, but just not right now, okay? So feel free to approach me afterwards, or, you know, we find time to discuss that. All right, we're way over the time, and if you notice, that stupid thing didn't do a noise. This is what I use in therapy. It makes time predictable and visual. Transfers, right? Transfers. The plan was to make this thing peep, so we all know we're done, but it didn't. So questions so far? All right. The internet, it's a time timer. A time timer, right. Birgit? Yeah,
Oh yeah,
right.
the one that we had at the prayer.
More questions, or? All right, then that was it. You're done.